As I step into the cemetery, a chilling breeze whispered through the air, causing the leaves on the trees to rustle with a haunting melody. The sky was cloaked in a dark, ominous gray, casting an eerie shadow over the tombstones that stood like silent sentinels amidst the sprawling grounds. It was a place I'd frequented since my childhood, as my family's final resting place lay within these hallowed grounds. But little did I know that this visit would forever change my perception of life and death. I made my way through the narrow pathways, lined on either side by weathered gravestones that bore the weight of countless memories. The scent of freshly turned earth mingled with the faint aroma of flowers, as if the very essence of life and death converged in this sacred space. I paused at my parents' grave, their names etched in stone, their love forever memorialized. Lost in my thoughts, I suddenly heard a soft, distant sobbing. Curiosity piqued. I followed the sound until I reached a secluded corner of the cemetery. There, beneath a willow tree, sat an elderly woman, her frail frame hunched over in grief. Her silver hair glistened under the faint sunlight that managed to pierce through the somber clouds. Approaching cautiously, I offered her a gentle smile. "Are you okay?" I asked, my voice filled with concern. She looked up at me, her eyes swollen with tears. "I lost my husband," she whispered, her voice trembling with sorrow. "We were married for over 50 years, and now he's gone." I sat down beside her, empathizing with her pain. Together, we shared stories of our loved ones, exchanging memories and finding solace in the shared experience of loss. As the hours passed, the woman's grief began to ease, replaced by a glimmer of hope in her eyes. With a deep breath, she turned to me and said, "You know, I've come to this cemetery every day since my husband passed away, hoping to find some sign of him, some sense of closure. But today, sitting here with you, I realized that he's not confined to this place. His spirit lives on in the memories we created together, in the love that still surrounds me." Her words resonated within me, stirring a profound understanding. It was as if the cemetery, with all its reminders of mortality, had become a sanctuary for introspection and acceptance. Life and death intertwined in a delicate dance, each providing meaning to the other. As I bid farewell to the woman, I left the cemetery with a newfound appreciation for the fragility and beauty of life. The tombstones that had once seemed somber now stood as testaments to the indelible mark we leave on this world. From that day forward, I carried the wisdom gained within those hallowed grounds, cherishing every moment and ensuring that the legacy of those who had passed lived on in the stories I shared. The cemetery had become more than a resting place for the departed. It had become a sanctuary for the living, a place of reflection, and a reminder that life's brevity should be celebrated and cherished. And as I walked away, the wind whispered through the trees, carrying with it the echoes of the past, reminding me that even in the face of death, there is always room for hope, love, and the continuation of our eternal journey. Working at a cemetery can sometimes be an eerie and unsettling experience. During my time there, I encountered a particularly chilling incident that still sends shivers down my spine when I think about it. Here is a creepy true experience from my time working at a cemetery. It was a moonlit night, and I was assigned to do some maintenance work in the older section of the cemetery. As I made my way through the rows of weathered tombstones, the silence seemed to weigh heavily on the air. The flickering glow of the lampposts cast eerie shadows that danced across the gravestones, creating an atmosphere of unease. As I reach a secluded corner of the cemetery, I notice a faint whispering sound. It was barely audible, but it seemed to be coming from one of the grave sites nearby. Curiosity got the better of me, and I cautiously approached the source of the mysterious murmurs. There, illuminated by the dim light, I saw an old mausoleum, its stone facade weathered and covered in moss. The door, partially ajar, creaked ominously as a gust of wind swept through the cemetery. The whispers grew louder, their words indiscernible but filled with a haunting presence. Feeling a mixture of trepidation and fascination, I cautiously pushed the door open, revealing a dark interior that sent chills down my spine. As I stepped inside, the temperature seemed to drop suddenly, and an overwhelming sense of foreboding washed over me. I hesitantly made my way deeper into the mausoleum, the whispers growing louder with each step. The flickering light of my flashlight revealed rows of dusty coffins and ornate tombstones, their engravings worn with time. The air felt heavy with an otherworldly presence, as if the spirits of the departed were lingering within the cold stone walls. Just as I was about to turn back, convinced that my imagination was playing tricks on me, I heard a distinct rustling sound behind me. My heart skipped a beat as I spun around, my flashlight trembling in my hand. To my horror, the lid of one of the coffins had shifted slightly, revealing a pair of skeletal hands clawing their way out. Paralyzed by fear, I watched in disbelief as a figure emerged from the coffin. It was a gaunt, ghostly figure draped in tattered burial clothes. Its hollow eyes seemed to fixate on me, and a bone-chilling wail escaped its pale, cracked lips. It was a ghastly apparition, a restless spirit seeking release from its eternal slumber. Overwhelmed by terror, I stumbled backward and fled the mausoleum, desperate to escape the clutches of the supernatural. The whispers followed me, growing fainter as I distanced myself from that macabre scene. I never returned to that part of the cemetery after that night, haunted by the memory of what I had witnessed. This spine-chilling experience at the cemetery reminded me that the boundary between the living and the dead can sometimes blur in the most unsettling of ways. It served as a chilling reminder of the mysteries that lie within those silent grounds and the stories that may forever remain untold. The sun began to set as I entered Bonaventure Cemetery, drawn by its historical allure. The gentle breeze rustled the leaves of the ancient oak trees, casting dancing shadows on the gravestones. The serene atmosphere was hauntingly beautiful, but I approached the experience with a rational mind. As I strolled through the rows of tombstones, my footsteps echoed against the worn paths. The occasional chirping of birds and distant sounds of the city reminded me that I was still in the world of the living. The atmosphere felt peaceful, though an occasional shiver ran down my spine, perhaps due to the temperature drop as nightfall approached. I admired the intricate designs of the tombstones, the names and dates engraved with precision. Each grave told the story of a life lived and loved, now preserved in stone. It was a solemn reminder of our mortality, a testament to the passing of time. As I explored further into the cemetery, I stumbled upon a mausoleum tucked away in a quiet corner. Its weathered facade bore witness to years of exposure to the elements. With curiosity piqued, I approached it, intrigued by the craftsmanship and the stories it held within. Peering inside, I found a dimly lit space with rows of neatly arranged coffins. It was a place of rest, a final sanctuary for those who had passed. The air was still and carried a musty scent, reminiscent of old books. I paid my respects to the deceased, acknowledging the lives they had lived. As I turned to leave the mausoleum, a gust of wind blew through, causing the heavy door to creak momentarily. The sound startled me, but I attributed it to natural elements at work. Rafts, temperature differentials, and the aging structure. There was no need for supernatural explanations. I continued my journey through the cemetery, feeling a sense of tranquility as the moon illuminated the gravestones. I couldn't help but reflect on the lives of those who lay beneath my feet. Their stories, once vibrant and full of energy, had become part of the tapestry of history. The night grew darker, and my visit drew to a close. As I walked back towards the entrance, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, a primal instinct rooted in our survival mechanisms. It was likely a combination of my imagination and the unfamiliar surroundings playing tricks on my mind. Exiting Bonaventure Cemetery, I carried with me a sense of awe and respect for the past. The experience had reminded me of the fragility of life and the importance of cherishing the present. While the cemetery held an undeniable aura, it was the stories of the people who had lived that truly fascinated me. As I left the gates behind, I couldn't deny the peacefulness that accompanied me. Bonaventure Cemetery had provided me with a glimpse into the history and stories of those who had come before. And as I walked away, I felt a deep appreciation for the connection between the past, the present, and the legacies we leave behind.